What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Timeless Movie Podcast, episode number 46. My name is Victor Vasquez. Appreciate everybody coming back and listening. If you have not heard part one, or I guess the first part of Barbenheimer, make sure to go check out that episode. I talk about Barbie, what my thoughts were, what I liked about it, a small little nitpick, and whether I consider it a timeless movie as of my first viewing. Go ahead and check it out. I thought it was a really fun movie, but definitely want to get your guys' thoughts. And if you have seen it, go to that video and go ahead and like that video as well as provide your comments down below. On this episode, number 46, we're going to be talking about Oppenheimer, directed by Christopher Nolan. I have been super pumped to watch this movie just because of the fact that I've been a big fan of Christopher Nolan for the last couple of years. He made some of my favorite Batman films, one of those being The Dark Knight, which is my top rated, favorite timeless movie that I currently have. It's just one of those movies that just is so rewatchable every single time. It never gets tiring for me. And he also has a couple on my list as well. He has Interstellar, which I still find amazing. Inception being another great film that I loved that he created. The concept of it was so unique. So anytime Christopher Nolan comes out with another movie, I'm going to be there in the theaters to support and watch. So on this episode, we're going to be diving into Oppenheimer. We got to watch it in IMAX. But before we talk about that, let's go through some of my biggest questions that I had about the movie. And then we'll dive into some of those pros and cons. All right, let's go ahead and dive into my first question, which was, how the hell is Christopher Nolan and the cinematography team going to pull off the visual of an atomic bomb? I've been thinking about this since I heard the concept of this movie and what it was going to be about. And when you say that this is the story about the creation of the atomic bomb, you got to show the bomb going off, at least a test run of it. So I was always curious, and they kind of show glimpses of it in the trailers. But how the hell are they going to be able to pull off without any CGI? And Christopher Nolan apparently pulled it off, and he even stated that there's not even one CGI visual in the entire movie. Everything is practical. And so that just got me excited, but also curious. How the heck is he going to be able to show that visual of an atomic bomb? Is it just TNT? Is it a miniature? How was he able to kind of show that on screen and just make it look so realistic? So that got me pumped and excited. I just really want to know how he was able to pull it off. And I can't wait to see the behind the scenes of this movie just to kind of see how they played that out as well. Second question that I had for Oppenheimer would be, who would be the standout character in this stacked cast that we have for this film? You have Cillian Murphy, who plays the lead as J. Robert Oppenheimer. You have Florence Pugh, Robert Downey Jr., Emily Blunt. You have Rami Malek, Matt Damon. You have so many different characters that have appeared in this movie and in the trailers, and so many more that it just kind of begs the question, who's going to stand out? Who's going to be that one guy or girl, really, that's going to be able to kind of steal the show? Similar to in my previous episode, in regards to the different cast that we had in Barbie. Who was going to actually stand out on top of everybody else? So I was super excited to see who was going to really, again, step up to the plate and show off their skills and show off, really blow the roof off of this specific type of a movie, especially when you have so many different characters that are going to be interacting with each other. I was just super excited to see how there would, the chemistry that these characters would have and all the different nature that you would see in this type of a biopic as well. All right, now that we've gone through some of my initial thoughts and really going through what I'm anticipating, let's go ahead and dive into my overall thoughts of Oppenheimer. I got to see this one on Saturday at an IMAX theater, and I thought the movie was great. From start to finish, it had me engaged. From the steps leading to the creation of the bomb to the aftermath of what is probably one of the most remarkable points in human history. Everything about this film was just so spot on. Again, there's a lot of hype around it because you're showing and you're talking about no CGI. We pulled off showing this visual without having to kind of create visuals for the atomic bomb. That's a lot of hype already in regards to this film, and yet it delivered. That to me is just incredible. Let's just dive into some of my pros and cons about the movie. First pro, and I gotta say this is such a consistent thing with Christopher Nolan films, is the sound design. Whether it was the score, whether it was, again, the design of different elements of the movie, everything was incredible. Granted, we watched it in an IMAX theater, so the speakers were loud, but the effects of the bomb, the test runs for the bomb, the score that was created by Ludwig Göransson, just beautiful. It was just so on point, and it added to the film. And I love it when scores or when different types of designs of sounds add to a scene, or they add to the narrative that's going on in front of us. I think that just makes the experience of going to a movie theater that much better. Sometimes when you're watching a movie at home, you don't get that same effect with the sound because we don't have that huge speakers like we have in theaters. So I love it when, again, the sound design and the soundtrack or the score of the film just elevates these scenes and either adds more tension or, again, makes it a little bit more enjoyable, or whatever it does, it just adds some type of an effect to the experience that you're having. So huge props to Ludwig Göransson for creating the score and for the rest of the team involved with the sound design for Oppenheimer. Second pro for me was the tension that the film had from the beginning. Up until the point of witnessing the first bomb test, it was so well done. Every time you would see Oppenheimer, played by Cillian Murphy, kind of talk about and kind of contemplate the theories of what this bomb could do, or how they could develop something in this race against these other powers or other countries that are trying to develop a type of bomb as well. You could see that there's like a lot of tension rising and rising up until that first test. You could see the stress on Cillian Murphy's face in regards to what he has to do in order to win this arms race, as you would call it, in creating the first atomic bomb. There's just so much emotion that kind of goes through it. You can see that all in Cillian Murphy's face. You can see it in his interactions and discussions, whether he's discussing with Matt Damon's character, who is actually General Leslie Groves. You can see that, again, there's a lot of things going on. He even has a lot of great discussions with Josh Hartnett, who again plays Ernest Lawrence. A lot of great stuff, a lot of great interactions, but it was those interactions and the chemistry that the team and the actors had that just elevated every single scene leading up to the bomb being tested. Again, it keeps you on the edge of your seat because you're not knowing, okay, you know that the bomb was successful, but you didn't know how they got to that point. You didn't know what was at stake, how many people were involved. And it wasn't just J. Robert Oppenheimer. It was an entire group, an entire city or village that they created in Los Alamos, I believe, in New Mexico, that ended up helping to create this bomb under a lot of pressure. You're in a world war, and so a lot of things going on, and it's just a really great stuff that the cast was able to do. And that leads me to my third pro, which is the cast itself. They were just on top of their game. No actor disappointed with their performance. Even if they had 1 minute of screen time or an hour's worth of screen time, everybody gave it their all. And it just allows the audience to just lose themselves in the story and the characters. That's what happened to me. Again, I'm not going to speak for any other people that have watched the film. To me, there's times when you're watching a film and, it's good, it's entertaining, but sometimes you catch yourself saying like, oh yeah, it's this actor, or it's this person, or it's this person. Here in this film, you completely forget, at least I did. I completely forgot that it was Cillian Murphy. I was already so invested that, like, okay, this is Oppenheimer. Oh, here's Emily Blunt's character. She ends up playing the wife of J. Robert Oppenheimer. Her name is Kitty. And so you get so invested in these characters that you just completely forget who they are in real life. And I think that's the goal. And that's what Christopher Nolan does so well. He's able to create and develop these characters that have a lot of depth, and you just kind of become so invested in what they're going through and how they must be feeling that, again, that's really what the goal of so many movies are trying to do, and they fail. Christopher Nolan was able to accomplish that with this one. I was invested. I completely forgot about all these characters. All I was focused on was what the heck is going to happen after this bomb goes off. How is J. Robert Oppenheimer going to be feeling? Is he just going to be terrified? Is he mortified? What is the stress that he's going to have? I was just so invested in that. So again, to every cast member, every actor that came out, extras, anything, everybody did such a great job, and I just loved every single part of it. There's so much to like about the movie. I mean, there's 3 hours, and so you're obviously gonna miss a lot of details. So I'm definitely gonna try to rewatch it again, but there's just so much conversations, interactions, a lot of little ticks and details that you may have missed that it just goes to show that Christopher Nolan, he's a visionary. He kind of has everything in the right type of perspective, and every little detail counts. So great job to the team and the cast. I thought they really elevated their performances and made this movie very much enjoyable. My last pro is the back and forth jumps that the film had as well, and how the narrative was really told. A lot of good stuff that was done. You kind of jump to certain points because the story is actually revolving around an investigation of Oppenheimer, as well as Louis Strauss, played by Robert Downey Jr. In these investigations, they're basically discussing how Oppenheimer had gone through different types of security clearances and his connection to different types of communist parties. And so they were just investigating him to kind of figure out, like, what was his deal? Was he providing information to other countries? All this different stuff. And with that investigation, it actually opened up to opportunities to kind of jump back and forth in the timeline, to kind of see him, J. Robert Oppenheimer, early on, all the way up to the bomb test, and then to present time in the movie, which is basically those investigations and figuring out what was Oppenheimer's deal and why Louis Strauss was trying to investigate him. A lot of good stuff. And again, the jumping of different types of times in this film did not bother me at all. Obviously, it could make it a little bit confusing, but everything kind of just seemed to flow very nicely. So props to Christopher Nolan for able to just lay it out there and just make it not confusing at all, but just added more layers to the story as you saw it unfold as well. Now, I want to jump into one of my cons. This is going to be very similar to my other episode for Barbie. I actually didn't have any major gripes with Oppenheimer. The only nitpick I have, and it's just only one, was the explanation of a spy that was in the Manhattan Project. They teased that it could have been one of the specific characters that was working with Oppenheimer, one of the scientists that fled Germany and became a British citizen. And it ended up being revealed that it was this British scientist. And he used to be German, and he fled for protection. But they reveal it in a way that was very underwhelming. You know, they ended up revealing it at the end of the movie, and it didn't hit with me. I didn't really connect. I was like, oh, I completely forgot that this guy was here. So that was probably my one nitpick. I wish they could have expanded a little bit more in regards to how this person was a spy, and he ended up providing information to other countries about the atomic bomb. But that didn't really happen. Again, that was just my one small nitpick. Maybe other folks would have picked up a little bit better than I have. And the scientist did come out for a couple more minutes. It would have been really cool if he would have had a major part. That way, it would have made you question, like, who is the spy? Who is the individual that's been really taking this information from Oppenheimer and the team and spreading it out to other countries to obviously create their own bombs as well. So this is, again, small nitpick, but does not take away my enjoyment of this movie. All right, overall, I had a really great time watching Oppenheimer. It truly is, how they described it before, a type of horror story. Considering that we're living in a time where many big countries have a weapon of mass destruction and war can really break out at any time, which could then lead to the end of humanity. It's a scary thought. It's scary to think that, man, we're living in it, and J. Robert Oppenheimer predicted it. He said that with the creation of this bomb, we're basically have a near zero chance of creating a chain reaction that can destroy the world. But without realizing that near zero, everybody thought that, oh yeah, we didn't cause it. See, we succeeded. We didn't destroy the world. But Oppenheimer knew that, yes, we didn't destroy the world with this one bomb. We're going to destroy the world in the future because every big country will be able to then create these atomic bombs and then eventually make hydrogen bombs and make things that are so deadly and dangerous that they're basically going to destroy the world. And so he knew that he was basically facing his consequences. His consequence was, again, the creation of something that now in the hands of men was going to be used for anything, for leverage, for ego, for whatever it might be. So definitely a scary thought, and it just makes you kind of worried that these weapons of mass destruction are in the hands of military folks that, again, at any moment can push that button and just start another world war or the end of humanity as we know it. So scary stuff. It's a big topic, but I think it's a great topic that needs to be covered and people need to be aware of. That way, again, we can decide in regards to what is the best route to have for these weapons of mass destructions. But these stories, again, like this one, like Barbie as well, they provide great perspectives to the audience. Barbie provides a great perspective for women in our world and how harsh it is, right? How it isn't really equal to men and how complicated it is for them to navigate around society. Oppenheimer, like I just mentioned, provides perspective for someone that isn't aware of weapons of mass destruction and how creation can then be developed for evil and how it can cause a chain reaction that can alter our lives forever. So what a movie. I really enjoyed it. I highly recommend if you have a chance, definitely check it out in theaters. This one is again created for the cinema. If you can for an IMAX, go for it. If not, no worries. Just go check it out in any theaters. It's a great watch. Yes, it's long, 3 hours, but every minute is well spent. Everything is just kind of mapped out very nicely for the story, and how it just plays out just makes a whole lot of sense, at least to me. So great stuff by Christopher Nolan on the Oppenheimer film. All right, everybody. Now I want to jump into my favorite actor or actress's performance. In this film, I got to go with Cillian Murphy. He played J. Robert Oppenheimer, and he expressed so much emotion. What was crazy about his performance, though, is that there was times where he didn't even have to say any dialogue. He didn't have to say any words. It was literally just the emotion that came through his eyes that could tell you what was happening at a specific moment. At certain points, again, you could feel the terror that he was feeling, knowing that he was just unleashing something into the world that could potentially destroy it. And all because of his curiosity as a young man. He was just curious about theory, about what was potential, what could be done in this kind of world. And as soon as his mind was used to develop something, you could just see it progress as he gets closer and closer to that first test run of the bomb, how he's kind of maybe contemplating, like, did I make the right choice? Did I actually do what I needed to do? And so Cillian Murphy, he is such a beast at acting in everything he does. He's come out as a lot of different side characters for Christopher Nolan films. So it's great to see him as the lead, and he just kills it. Considering that there's a lot of great actors and actresses alongside him. He plays along with Emily Blunt, who is, again, a great actress. He goes against Robert Downey Jr., Matt Damon, so many great actors, and he just knocks it out of the park. Really great stuff. I really hope that he gets awarded, at least nominated for Best Actor in the next coming, award shows. Not that I hold those as, anything super major, but he definitely deserves to be awarded with something because of just a great performance overall as J. Robert Oppenheimer. Again, to me, completely forgot it was Cillian Murphy. To me, he was so invested in that role that I was looking, I was like, yeah, this is Oppenheimer. This is a guy that, like, again, I'm following his story. I'm following his terrors, his nightmares of what he has to go through after he created something that is so devastating. So definitely a lot of great stuff. I enjoyed his performance. Got to give a shout out again to the entire cast: Robert Downey Jr., Matt Damon, Rami Malek. You had so many people that just did their part to make these scenes much more enjoyable. But at the end, Cillian Murphy has my spot as the best performance in Oppenheimer. All right, now I think it's time for a great opportunity to jump into my favorite scene or moment of the movie. However, I do want to call out that this is a spoiler warning for anybody that has not seen the movie. Please, if you have not seen it, I do not want to ruin it for you. So go ahead, like this video, go watch Oppenheimer, and then come back and listen to the rest of this podcast. And that way you can either agree or disagree whether this was your favorite moment or favorite performance, or maybe you didn't even like this film, or maybe you did. Let me know. All right, hopefully that's enough time for everybody to jump out before I dive into the scene. But my favorite moment or scene was when Oppenheimer ends up giving a speech after finding out that the atomic bomb was used on Hiroshima, Japan. This is again during the World War II, and the bomb that J. Robert Oppenheimer and the rest of the group at Los Alamos ended up developing was then used in order to have Japan surrender. What was so cool and eerie about this scene was, everybody around him is super proud of what was just accomplished. They feel like they were a part of something historic, and they were. They were able to develop something that immediately made Japan surrender. Without realizing that this crowd is cheering and having a great time, and they're not understanding that there's the downstream effects of what this creation just did, which is basically the millions of lives will be lost when other countries figure out how to develop an atomic bomb. Oppenheimer is looking for the words to say, and every time he looks into the crowd, things begin to fizzle and shake in the background. You can see that he's like having a lot of trouble speaking. And then all of a sudden you see a very bright, blinding light that kind of hits the crowd. And then the crowd goes quiet. You can just almost hear the breathing of J. Robert Oppenheimer. And then you see people clapping, but you don't hear it. And then all of a sudden you see people with their skins peeling off. And then you see somebody screaming. And then people on the ground, they're crying because they just lost loved ones. He steps on what ends up being the charred body of an individual that may have been hit by the atomic bomb in Japan. It was scary. It was so visually, it was just so eerie. Like I mentioned before, it was such a great visual because again, I think that just got you into the sense of what was Oppenheimer potentially thinking in this moment. Everybody's having a great time. The war is going to be over. They just, again, they did something great for their country without realizing that, again, they basically just killed a huge population. And so it was a lot of tension and a lot of just weird sentiment as the scene went on. And you could just see Oppenheimer as he's just kind of walking through the crowd. Everybody's laughing, everybody's cheering, but he's the only one that's just serious faced. He has like no, he just has this kind of look on his face where it's like, what have I just done? Great performance. That is, again, why he was my favorite actor in this film. And it was just an incredible moment overall. All right, everybody, now that we've gone through the pros and cons, we've gone through my favorite actor, we've gone through my favorite scene, now I think it's time for my overall thoughts in regards to whether this film, Oppenheimer, is a timeless movie. As of this moment, Oppenheimer has the potential to be a timeless movie. I'm leaning towards yes, it is. Again, I'm not going to give a definitive answer. There's still, a lot of different things that could come into play. I can definitely rewatch it again, and maybe my second viewing, it might not be as cool or as entertaining, but I need to see it again. Given the 3-hour runtime, I feel like there's so much to digest about the movie that it just requires multiple viewings. I truly did enjoy watching the movie, though. I love it when movies can kind of give me a weird feeling or tension or stress. I love that because I feel like when a movie gives you that kind of stress, that gives you that kind of feeling of like, oh man, I feel very uneasy, then the movie's doing its job. One great example this year, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. That movie made me laugh. That movie made me cry. That movie made me feel so many different types of ways about the end of a great trilogy. And when a movie does that, I feel like, again, those are the ones that end up being timeless. And so this one, again, it didn't make me cry or anything of that nature, but it does make you think. It makes you leave the theater and start thinking, man, why do humans end up going down this path, right? Why do we create something that it's, again, we use our great minds to come up with these great ideas, and then we perform these actions which are basically to cause harm to people. And so it just makes you think, again, it causes you so much stress while you're watching the movie about what Oppenheimer had to go through in order to kind of build it, and then the aftermath of it. That to me just means that the stories and characters did their job when they make you feel that way. From Cillian Murphy to Emily Blunt to Matt Damon, everyone did a great job. I sound like a broken record, but once again, the cast just did their part to make this movie feel that much more special. And again, it's just not even the leads, but also the side characters that only came out for a couple minutes. It was just a lot of great stuff. Such an epic movie, which is becoming an actual consistency thing for Christopher Nolan as well. Now, if I'm comparing it to other movies, at this moment, I still have Dark Knight, I still have Inception, and I still have Interstellar as films that are timeless to me and a little bit over this film as well. But it was a great story. It does not take away my love for this film. It just proves that Nolan is, again, currently one of our greatest filmmakers in the business. So please, if you can, go check out Oppenheimer. It was a great time. I know it's long, 3 hours, but trust me, it is definitely worth it. A movie that is potentially a timeless movie for me. Definitely got to watch it a couple more times. But more importantly, I want to hear from you guys. What did you guys think of Oppenheimer? Do you think it's a timeless movie? Did you enjoy the performances by Cillian Murphy and everybody else in the cast? And what did you think about the bomb as well? Definitely let me know your thoughts down below in the comments. I would love to interact with you about this movie. That way we can talk more about this Oppenheimer film. All right, guys, appreciate everybody staying this long and listening. It was really fun to talk about Barbie and Oppenheimer. Really good stuff, and I hope that we get to see more of these types of weekends where we have two distinct films that come out at the same time. Would love to do a double feature for it. All right, guys, my name is Victor Vasquez. This has been episode number 46 of the Timeless Movie Podcast. Make sure to check out next week's episode as we will be covering a new movie and we'll be deciding, is it timeless? All right, guys, have a great rest of your week, and I'll talk to you later.